Okay, let's go ahead and get started there, everybody. Welcome back to, well, not necessarily 1 p.m., but a 2 p.m. PST YouTube stream. I'm your host, Strangebird Jim, and today we are going to be getting back into some more Pega certification studies. We have some more videos to make public later on afterwards, the next an hour afterwards. And then, of course, we got Final Fantasy VII later on tonight. So hopefully, that will be an enjoyable time for you all. But for those of you that are just here, you know, maybe you just kind of clicked on this video, welcome. Thank you for clicking on it. Let me explain who I am, what these videos are all about, and I hope that you'll find them helpful. Um, so, who I am. I'm currently an unemployed software developer whose last position was working with the Pega environment. Um, uh, the company that I worked for, um, you know, gave us some additional training. You know, uh, I already kind of knew how to program. It's just they wanted to make sure that our skills were, you know, up for the contracts that they were going to be putting us on. So while I passed their Java portion, they gave us another trainer for the Pega environment. They wanted to train us for Pega environment because they had some clients that you know um, that worked with the Pega environment. So we were given an authorized training partner, and 15 to 20 of us were being trained by said partner to try to learn as much as we could about Pega, before they sent us out on contracts. However, we had a really hard time with that particular trainer. He wasn't answering our questions. Um, he solved no problems with Pega whatsoever, and there was a problem with our computers when in fact, um, the entire Pega system is not necessarily easily runnable on any, you know, personal PC. It's probably best to be on a server, really, just because of the amount of memory requirements necessary to run the entire program. So, not to say that you can't do it. It's just you probably should have a really good PC if you want to try to run Pega, on your own PC. Um, Hence the reason why I tend to suggest make use of those instances um, that you're given on those challenges. Okay, because that's on the server, so make use of them. Okay, so but we had a hard time with our authorized training partner to the point where you know a good portion of us, if not all of us, had gone full self-study. We weren't really listening to the gentleman anymore. Okay, so um, now some of you might be like, well, obviously you're just new programmers, so you don't really know what the hell you're talking about. Okay, well, I mean, there's that opinion, but here's the thing. He made so many mistakes that even his coworkers were seeing his mistakes themselves. Okay. He told his coworkers that were testing us about the material that he had covered a particular topic um, on, for testing, and when the tester, asked us questions without us knowing, we didn't know what all was, given by our authorized training partner to our tester. Um, he started asking questions about this section that we had not covered, and we were like, we had not, we hadn't covered that section there, sir. We can't answer those questions. And he's like, oh, okay then. Uh, so the fact that that shouldn't have been a lot of red bills, and you know, the fact that, hey, maybe consider putting us back into another training cycle probably would have been in their best, um, probably would have been in their best interest. They didn't do that. A lot of us asked to be put back into another training cycle with a different authorized training partner, but they did not do that. So they did us a lot of disservice in that particular regard, in my particular opinion. Um, I mean, if you wanted to disagree with me, you're welcome to do that. I mean, it's a free world, but um, it wasn't ideal in my particular opinion. Okay. Um, the one and only time that they forced me to take the certification exam, I was already self-study. I had not covered all the material at that time, and they said, you have to take it or we're going to have to let you go. And well, I wanted to work, so I said, fine, I'm going to fail it, but I'll do it if you want me to do it. So I took the test. I missed 6 more questions than the minimum, and I failed. To pass the certification. I knew that I was going to fail it. It wasn't too much of a surprise. I had not covered all the material. So there was going to be questions on the exam that I I wouldn't know. Okay, I don't know. I wouldn't have known all of the ins and outs of what Pega could do at that particular moment in time. So, needless to say, when those questions came up, I was like, "Oh, I have no idea what it's asking." So, and obviously, that's really bad when you're trying to take an exam, right? You you need to understand the material. Now, um, one of the things that some people might try to do is like memorize the questions, because maybe I'll see the exact same questions on the exam. No, don't don't do that. They will have different questions on the certification exam that are different than the ones that you'll see in the modules in the mission exercise. You know, they'll be different. Okay, so you are going to be hit with some very you might get hit with some very confusing questions. You might get hit with a few confusing answers. You might get hit with very misleading answers or misleading questions. So you're gonna have to be prepared for that. Okay. When I took it for 8.6, I was also hit with questions that had keywords that were changed in Pega 8, but they were being delivered to us in that certification exam, from Pega 7. Okay, there were Pega 7 keywords in that certification exam for 8.6. So I had some issues with that, obviously. Um, so I failed it. They didn't put me back into another training cycle, so didn't get a proper training along those lines, and I was pushed into a contract. Now, I'd hoped that, when I got to to my contractor, to my contract work, that they would have had a mentorship program that I could make use of. Um, you know, that I could maybe talk with someone that is, you know, uh, not necessarily an authorized training partner, but someone that knows Pega quite a bit and they could actually answer my questions right then and there, like a mentor would be. Someone that, would be, that would actually care about my growth as a developer. But that didn't happen. Um, they informed me that, hey, if you have any questions, we'll answer them, but that's about as far as it went. It wasn't a full mentorship program. Um, so I did what I could to try to get back in, into self-study, but I never finished it off. Um, and I was laid off from that company. Um, so it was quite a irritating experience, I must say. Um, you know, so I'm this series is meant for me to really buckle down and you know do a lot of self-study, obviously, and I don't have an authorized training partner to help teach me. Okay, and I can't afford the instructor-led training. It's like a 2-week course and it's like $5,000. It's not a um it's not a cheap course at all. So um if you have the money, great, you know, but no, because it's a 2-week course, you are learning all of the Pega environment in a short amount of time. So you're going to want to take as much notes as you can, take as much video recordings if possible, and ask a lot of questions because um, they are going to give you a lot of information in a short amount of time. So be prepared if you do take the instructor-led training, but I am not that, okay? So if you're watching these videos, know that I am not an instructor, okay? I'm working on the certification much like anybody else, okay? Now, if you're watching these videos and you are a manager, a lead, or something like that within the Pega community, and you are, just kind of maybe brushing up on, what um, on knowledge or anything along those lines, then I welcome you to be able to go back through these videos and answer some of the questions that I have because there's going to be some topics where I'm I'm confused about what they say. I'm confused about how they go doing, um, about how they kind of work things out. It's just it feels like a mess at times, and I could, you know, I welcome anybody that is very knowledgeable about Pega to help me with answering those questions, and in doing so, with answer, put in a comment in the comment section about like, hey, on this particular topic, you're going to need to think about it in this way. If you do that, then not only are you helping me, but you might be helping someone else out as well. So I really encourage anybody that is watching these videos, if you are knowledgeable about, those particular topics, please feel free to, help answer my questions, and in so doing, help out the Pega community, themselves. So, um, now, if you have your own questions and you want to put them in the comments, you're welcome to do so. I will try to answer them the best I can if I can. If I can't, then I will go, and talk with my previous coworkers that I know are knowledgeable in Pega and ask them directly if they know. Um, um, and I will post the answer to you after that, okay? Because most likely they will, okay? The coworkers that I worked with had 5 to 10 years experience working with Pega, so they knew. But um, the I'm working towards my system architect certification. If you are looking towards getting your business architect certification, please know that this business architect certification or this business architect mission is done. We've completed it for 8.7. We've covered the 2 missions and 2 modules, as you can see. So if your if you clicked on this video and you're really interested in learning more about the business architect, then, you're going to want to basically, stop this video, go to my playlist, or the other way around, go to my playlist and stop this video, whatever. And the 2 missions and 2 modules are done in order. Okay, so you can kind of go through those missions and those modules in the order that Pega Academy has put them in, and you will learn Business Architect that way. Okay, but note that these 2 modules here are all about the Pega Express delivery. If you're going to be taking the Business Architect certification, I feel like these 2 modules are not enough concerning the Pega Express delivery to get you 100% on the 12% that this covers. Okay, so I would recommend doing this mission here and studying more about Pega Express delivery. Okay, do yourself that favor. Learn as much about the Pega Express delivery from its own mission than what these 2 modules do. So, but my main focus is getting the System Architect certification. I want to get that, so that I can start, working towards, getting a job in the Pega community again. Because they're not going to accept a person that doesn't have a certification, or at least I highly doubt that they're going to want to train. So, and not many places want to apparently nowadays. So, okay, so there's these 2 other versions that came out after 8.7, as you can see, 8.8 and 23. We are not covering those. We are covering the 8.7 for anybody that is also studying this. Maybe you're wanting to watch this video. Maybe you're trying to learn English as well. But you want to read in your native tongue. It's perfectly reasonable, understandable. Believe me, I understand. So, hence the reason why I'm doing it in 8.7 instead of the 8.8 when I first started this particular series. So, now, I still have not received an email concerning localizing a UI form. Still haven't gotten a reply back on that one yet. I'm hoping that they will eventually address it, but for right now, nothing I can do about it. So, but we're going to be going into testing your application, and we're going to be going into unit tests today. So, this is a very lengthy topic, so we got our work cut out for us on this. Plus, unit tests are very important. Okay, just saying, save the best for last. You want to debug your program, making sure that it is running exactly how you need it to. So unit tests. An incorrect rule configuration in an application can cause delays in case processing. When an error occurs, end users might need to reassign work, or a case might require repair by an administrator. Yikes. Not great, obviously. For example, consider a case that needs to be routed to a fulfillment department. If the case is routed instead to the accounting department, an accountant must reroute the case to fulfillment. The accountant wastes time rerouting the assignment while the fulfillment department is idle. The result is a delay to the customer during case reassignment. That's strange. Another fulfillment request in the accounting work basket? Sorry, Mr. Smith. We never received your request, but I sent the request hours ago. Okay. So, to avoid configuration errors such as incorrectly routed assignments, developers test their applications. The most basic form of application testing is unit testing, individual rules. Unit testing supports the continuous delivery of applications by enabling quality testing of the smallest units of functionality. In a Pega application, the smallest unit is an individual rule. And the purpose of unit testing is to verify that each element of the application, for example, a decision table or a report definition, works as expected. Unit testing reduces the risk of configuration error in one rule being propagated to another rule or to other rules in the application, which causes significant delays to case processing. Use unit testing to reduce configuration errors. By unit testing the individual rules, you know that each rule works as expected when you configure them. For example, consider a decision tree that evaluates a property. As shown in the following image, the application reads the property from a data page that is sourced from a report definition. If the decision tree returns an incorrect result, but the data page contains the correct data, you can isolate the error to the decision tree. So you have a report definition sent to a data page, sent to a decision tree, but obviously that decision tree is causing an error, so you'll know, hey, this is the problem. But if you notice that the data being sent from the data page is correct, then you'll know that's the issue, that's where the error is. But you have to isolate it. You have to know that it is indeed being sent properly. Which of the following options best describes the benefit of unit testing rules? Unit testing identifies configuration issues that can propagate to other rules with potential serious consequences. Okay, that sounds about right. Unit testing identifies configuration issues that might impact application performance on a production system. It does more than just on the production system, so no. Unit testing validates a rule configuration to ensure that any dependent rules are available to the application. I mean, that's not exactly what unit testing does. So not quite, I'm sure it has some applications in making sure that a rule configuration can be used properly and stuff like that, but that's not its it's not the best describes, so unit testing validates information that must be provided before the rule can be saved. Validates information that must be provided before the rule can be saved? No, it doesn't. That's not. First off, the rule can be saved even before, before unit testing even needs to happen. You can still save the rule. It's not a requirement for a rule to be saved that you must make a unit testing on it. So yeah, that's not true either. So I feel like this first one is the best one out there, but let's check. Okay, it was. Unit testing allows the system architect to ensure that a rule behaves as expected. So, I mean, this is the exact. I mean, I was looking at that. I'm like, going, that's pretty much exactly the same thing that they said up above, anyway. So, but still, it's better to understand, what the material is all about than memorizing the wordage, right? Understand what unit testing does versus trying to memorize definitions. Okay, because here's the thing: when you get to a certification exam, they're not going to be saying, "Oh yeah, is this true?" No, they're not going to give you that. They're going to give you something completely, well, maybe not completely different, but they're going to change up the answer in um, they're going to change it up a little bit. So, you know, um, it's like, and they might say something along the lines of, "What do you need in order to confirm um, the, you know, to fix potentially serious consequences with configuration issues or something like that, right? With your rules or something along those lines, right? And then they'll give you like a list of um, potential keywords that might be really close to unit testing. They might say, they might give you like tracing, for example, as an example of something that is also kind of used um, to test out potential serious issues. So that's all. It's one of those things where it's like you're gonna need to know what unit testing is all about when you get to the um, certification exam. So, okay, unit testing individual rules. You can test a rule with test data that you provide by clicking Actions Run on the Rule Form toolbar in Dev Studio. For some rule types, such as binary file rules, the Pega does not provide an option for unit testing. If the rule cannot be unit tested, the Run option is unavailable. The appearance of the Run Rule window varies across rule types. So how you run a rule varies by rule type. In general, however, the rules run by using data from a test page that you define for the test. When you run the rule, the system uses rule resolution. If you unit test a rule, there's a higher version of the rule, and the system runs the higher version of the rule. All right. Record a unit test for automated testing. After you run the test, you can also convert the test into a reusable test case that you can run at any time. A test case requires one or more testable conditions used to determine whether a rule returns an unexpected result. Creating a reusable test case supports the continuous delivery model by providing a means to test rules regularly to identify the effects of new or modified rules. Run test cases whenever code changes are made that might affect existing functionality. For more information about using unit test cases, see the Pega community article, Understanding Unit Test Cases. You can automatically run a saved unit test from the rule or unit test using the Pega unit testing facility. To create a test case, you can write a test in the Run Rule window and define the results that indicate a successful unit test. Each expected result consists of an assertion, which describes one or more conditions to test and the expected outcome for each condition. The test cases support several types of assertions that test various aspects of rule execution. The assertions available for a test case vary according to the type of rule tested. The following table provides some examples of assertions and their uses. So, property. Test the value of the specified property. Requires the page on which the property is defined, a comparison operation, and a comparison value. So, for example, px urgency work is equal to 10. Decision result. Test the value returned by a decision rule. Requires values for each input property needed by the decision rule to return the expected result. When referred by employee is false, return recruiting WB. Okay. Expected runtime. Tests whether a rule executes within an allowed amount of time. Requires a comparison operation and an allowed time in seconds. Expected runtime is less than or equal to 3 seconds. Now, this might be really handy for you, especially when you're trying to um, um, especially when you are trying to make sure that your portion of the application is running within a good amount of time for for use out in the real world, right? Like for example, if you are trying to do like a simple mathematical operation, adding two numbers together, and it takes you 10 minutes to get through all that, then that's not exactly great, right? You know, if I'm like, on my phone, for example, and I'm like on, ooh, hey, I need to use my, calculator to, um, to make a simple, 2 plus 2 calculation, right? And if I hit equal and it takes like 10 minutes for the answer to come up, then you got a problem. There's a problem with your calculator, right? So, um, you know, so that's obviously a very simple example, but um, there was a time in, when I was, working at my last job where, um, the work that I was doing was pretty much like um, it takes in data, makes various calculations, certain determinations, and sends back the results to the customer service rep or whoever needed the data to begin with, right? Um, so um, if we got that data in and we weren't processing it and sending it back out as quickly as we could, then we were basically wasting our coworkers' time with just kind of waiting there for the results. You know, for example, if I was to, you know, like bring up a brand new website, right? Um, or, let's say you want to go and do a Google search, right? You know, Google, became um, really useful really fast because, um, their algorithms were typically considered top notch. I mean, I don't think any other company's gotten better than they have, but then again, I don't really know. I haven't really analyzed their algorithms, um, I'm not like, let me compare both search engines and make sure that they're coming up at just how long it takes them to find results that I'm looking for, right? I'm not doing that. But here's the thing. Um, you know, let's say you go to Google, you type in, search parameter that you're looking for, something that you're, wanting to find more information about, like, hey, I'm gonna look up Star Wars as an example, right? Um, you hit search, and suddenly it takes like 5 minutes to bring up even one single web page for you to even see, right? Um, like, I mean, like, here's Google search, right? And you type in like, hey, Star Wars, and it's if it's not like instantaneous, then there might be some problems with that, right? Just saying. So, you're gonna want to make sure that your program is tested and determined, or deemed fast enough for real world. Um, If you're running through your program and it is taking up a long time, or you have an infinite loop happening, in your program, then well, you need to go back to the drawing board and try to figure out, what went wrong. Clean and efficient. So so this is definitely a major uh, this is definitely a major one that you're going to want to make sure that you are very um, gung ho about. Okay, make sure that you run these for your unit tests. So, um, page tests for the presence of a page in memory requires the name of the page and a comparison operation. So, page the course list has no errors. Okay. Um, when you complete a set of expected results, save the configuration of the test case. You can access the saved test case from the rule. The rules list all the test cases recorded for that rule and status of each test case as of its last execution. If you rerun a test case and the test case fails, open the result and notify each assertion that returned an unexpected result. If a test case returns expected results, a green passed status is displayed. You can group unit test cases into a test suite to execute multiple test cases and suites in a specified order. When you run test suites in bulk, they run sequentially but not in parallel. Um, so here's the thing that I will also state about these um, the test work here. Okay, make sure that you are testing with all potential inputs in mind. Okay, um, test to see whether or not your if your field is only needing numbers, you better check to make sure that it only allows numbers. Check to see, hey, does it accept letters? Does it accept symbols? Does it accept white space? You know, and test all of that. You know, if you're looking for a specific number or a number in a certain range, of numbers, right? So like maybe you're looking for a number from 1 to 10, right? Then you better make sure that you are testing, that range in some fashion or another, right? 1, you know, test, does it run with 0? Does it run with 1? Does it run with 4? Does it run with 10? Does it run with 11? Those are all different tests that you're going to need to kind of check. Does it run with -4? You know, if it runs with -4, then again, you're going to have a problem. You know, check with -1, check with -10, check with -11. These are all tests that you might want to consider running for that range, because if your program gets a result that you weren't really expecting, you know, and it still runs it correctly, then you have the potential of screwing up the rest of your application if that were to happen, right? So make sure that you are, um, you know, running multiple unit tests on that portion of code. Okay. Test it out thoroughly. Believe me, I had a course that kicked my ass. Literally. You know, um, there was a program that we were given, and a lot of us could not get past it because um, he made sure that we were that you know uh, every single last character that we got was being tested upon, and we needed to check to see whether or not, it was actually working with said characters. Now, I never passed it, and therefore I failed the class on it. Um, it was a brutal course. Um, but I never went back and tried to rework that program out again to try to figure out, what I was missing on it. I don't think I don't know if I still have the. I mean, I have a lot of notes from that class somewhere. Um, but I don't remember if I still have that particular assignment. Um, it'd be interesting if I try to do that again. But the problem is that I don't have the testing program, so I wouldn't really know if I indeed got the correct answer out of it. I wouldn't know. Um, he had a testing program that would send our program a various amounts of input, and we didn't know what the input was, so we had no way of knowing um, what he was testing our program out, with. And because of that, um, a lot of us really kind of struggled with it because we would typically get, sure, we might have passed, some of the tests, like say that he had like 20 different tests, or 20 different types of input. Um, if, um, but the thing was that it would never tell us like, hey, you passed test, 1 through 6. It would never tell us that. It would only tell us whether we passed or we failed. We never knew the input that was given to us, and we never knew where exactly we failed on it. And that will happen in the real world, though, folks. Okay? You're not going to always be prepared for the input that your program is going to receive, and you're never really seeing, you might not necessarily see the input that, or the output, or, where exactly it's failing or anything along those lines. So you need to be doing your due diligence on it. It was such a fantastic course. I really wish I had, um, you know, the problem with that, and that college course was the fact that I had another tough course at the same time. So I was never able to focus on that one program course because I had another equally tough program course at the same exact time, and I was like going, ugh. It um, it was a very tiring quarter, on that one. So, you know, maybe if someone's watching this video and you know exactly what I'm talking about, then you know. You don't need to say, where it's from or anything along those lines, um, but yeah, um, I really did appreciate um, the instructor, the course. I really enjoyed that program. Now, you're like, oh, enjoyed. What do you mean? I mean that it really pushed my capabilities. Okay, and I needed that push. Okay. Yeah, I failed, but in some ways, I feel like I got a lot out of it, you know. And sometimes that, you know, um, the um, you have to understand that um, failure in a program, you know, um, shouldn't be viewed as a detriment or anything along those lines. Consider it as a learning opportunity. Okay. Um, every failure that you see will be a learning opportunity for you. Okay. Um, if you pass it, first try, then great. But did you learn? For some people, they might say no. You might not have. But then again, you might have gotten, more out of you might have understood everything. You know, that's a possibility too. I'm not gonna say, no, you didn't learn that. You know, um, but the thing is that, um, we learn as a society by the failures that we make. Okay, and we learn from it. We grow from it. We grow from our failures to be better. Okay. If we don't learn from our failures and we continue making the same mistakes, then we don't, we're not growing. You know, uh, we're not learning from it. We're not, uh, uh, we are basically stuck in a endless loop of failures because we'll just keep on failing over and over and over again. You know, think of it this way: if our caveman ancestors, they tried over and over and over again about how to make fire, but they kept on doing the same exact failure over and over and over again, then guess what? We would have never really grown. You know, we would have been stuck, you know, as, you know, pretty much brain dead apes, back then. You know, we'd be no better than, the predators that are still out there in the wild, if that was the case, right? Still using, um, you know, stone spears and stuff like that. Um, how scary is that, right? Um, so, to learn, we do need to make mistakes, but we need to learn from said mistakes. So, what's frustrating, you know, is the fact that some people don't tell you the mistakes that you made, and I feel that that's a disservice. Um, I feel that that's a disservice for humanity. If you make a mistake, someone should let you know about what you did wrong. That way, you go, oh, okay, how can I fix it? How could I be better at it? What can I do to not make that mistake again? Um, you know, we need more of that, in today's society, I feel. So, okay. Sorry. Really bad, really off brand tangent. Apologies for that. Let's get back into this, shall we? Um, okay, we've already covered all this, so or on preparing test cases. So, preparing a test case, saving a test case requires access to a rule set that is configured to store test cases. You cannot save test cases to a rule set that is not configured to store test cases. Before you record a unit test, work with your system administrator to identify a suitable rule set for storing test cases. Keep tests portable and independent, as tests must neither be dependent on any other test case nor interfere with any tests running after. When the development application is released to production, you can migrate the application without including the test cases. Yeah, don't bother bringing the testing of said rules out in production. The production server doesn't need those testing applications with it. Okay. Matter of fact, it might slow down production if for some reason your test cases are being run on the production as well. And that's not exactly ideal because if your coworkers, like customer service reps, are kind of expecting super fast results being shown to them, right? And your application is running unit tests at the same time of trying to get real life data out to the customer service reps, then the information might not be super quick. It might be like really slow. So be careful with that. Use the cleanup feature to restore any clipboard system pages or changes to data or work instances that occur during test execution. The History tab will show a history of changes. That's another thing that might be concerning. Like if you send the test suite out to production, for example, right? And you get like real live customer data, their name, address, country, so on and so forth, right? And suddenly, it gets thrown into the test suite, and suddenly a lot of the customer data gets changed to, hard-coded values and saved into the database for the said customer. Like, hey, John Smith at, in the state of Washington and Seattle, is now John Walters from Chicago and Illinois or something like that. And it's like, wait, what? So it's one of those things where it's like, you got to be careful. You don't really want it to have that happen. Believe me. Now you're having to try to fix your database information if that was the case, right? So be careful. Running a test case. In Dev Studio, the unit testing landing page lists all the test cases defined for an application and the status of each test case as of its last execution. On a landing page, you can also create test suites that consist of one or more related test cases. Pega unit test suites run multiple test cases in the order that you specify. So on the Configure menu, select Application, Quality, Automated Testing, Unit Testing to access the landing page. So there's the landing page, and according to this, it looks like it's just running that one particular test case for the loan request data, and that's it. Now, bear in mind that one of the problems that we had out there in the real world is that our application might be trying to retrieve information from the database and trying to process all the information in the database, and sending results back, right? Well, here's the thing. If you only have like 100 units or something like that on the database, it's going to be really, really fast. You're going to be able to, like, you might be able to process that data, super fast and send it right back out, right? And you're like, I'm going, this is perfect. Awesome. We're good to go. We don't need to worry about it anymore, right? You might be thinking that. But then you get out into the real world, and now you have a customer that has a database that could be in millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions. Depends on the customer, right? You know, um, you know, it might be trying to get, like viewer count on their news channel or something along those lines, and it might be a really popular news channel of some sort, right? And now you're trying to figure out like how many of your viewers are male, female, non-binary, whatever. Okay. Um, you know, and now you're having to scan through millions of lines of rows of information that you might have collected, and suddenly, you know, now that really quick processing is now taking minutes, if not hours, if not days, to process all of the data on the database. Okay, and that's not great. Okay, especially if you have a client that needs that information as quickly as possible. You know, so like they have a customer service rep. You know, like saying, "Hey, I need to find this one particular customer in in the millions, on the database." Your program better make sure that you're capable of running through that database quickly and send that data right back out again. Otherwise, if they're on the phone with the customer and they're going, "Okay, customer, you're gonna have to give me 15 minutes to, you know, to do a quick to do a quick search, for you in the database." That customer is going to leave. That customer is going to be like, "I don't want to be waiting around 15 minutes for you to handle this," you know. So, or whatever. As an example, it's like, the customer, wants really quick results, right? And they're going to expect that from the customer service rep. So the customer service rep is going to be expecting that from the application that they're working with. So you better make sure that your application is running really smoothly and really fast. You know, Otherwise, you know, you're going to have an unhappy customer service rep and an unhappy customer, and therefore you're going to have an unhappy client. So, make sure that you are really doing your due diligence when it comes to testing your rules. The unit test landing page lists only the last test case defined for the application. The status of that test case is based on the last execution of the test case. Um, I would love to say that the landing page will keep a history of the test cases ran, but I don't think it does. So I think this is true. Okay, never mind. Um, okay. I wasn't sure. I was a little worried about this here. Um, because I wasn't sure, you know, but I mean, all I really needed to do is really look there, and would have seen the run history, and that probably would have shown like all the runs that's been done on the test cases. So um, I mean, this, you know, this makes sense. Like, you really want to make sure that you are showing all the times that you're testing out your application. You know, maybe not like all of them. Maybe at some point in time you probably want to remove some of your old test cases. You know, like you know, um, if you've been running your particular application, test cases against it like a million times or something like that, would you really be interested in the first run through that you've ever done? Probably not. Probably not. Because most likely you've changed a lot since that first test through if you're like running a million, if you've already ran like a million tests. So I would imagine that when it says all, um, I would hope not. I would hope that eventually it will say like, hey, we're going to go ahead and get rid of some of the history because, you know, some of that history is no longer relevant. You know, um, it's like, think of it this way. Um, some history is only really necessary for the history books, and that's it. We don't need to, see about it. Um, we don't really need to experience it again or anything along those lines. Um, we don't need to glorify certain events in history, especially the ones that are the most horrific. Um, don't get me wrong, we need to be aware of our history to make sure that we don't make the same mistakes ever again. But at the same time, if you've already kind of learned from those mistakes and fixed them in a programming sense, then you won't necessarily make those mistakes again. Unless, of course, you got a brand new programmer that doesn't know any better and does the exact same mistake that you might have done that you did, like 10 years ago, right? But that's the thing. That's what a good mentor is all about, to kind of help them go. You got to be careful with doing that because you're gonna cause yourself um, some hardships if you keep on doing that. So that's all. Okay, best practices to configure unit tests. Automated unit tests deliver actionable results, and the time spent on running and maintaining automated tests is less than the time spent on manually testing. That's true. Ensure that test development occurs simultaneously with the development rules for your Pega Pega platform application. You may decide to reuse test cases during ongoing development, and other teams might leverage your test suites. When you create automated unit tests, or when to create automated unit tests. When a rule returns an expected result, consider configuring an automated unit test as the following priority table suggests. Tests that have predictable results, uh, you know, or high priority. Tests that have predictable results, tests that require to execute frequently, tests that help reduce manual effort when testing complex logic, tests that contain rules with wide usage across the application. Low priority are tests that undergo frequent changes that require maintenance of test cases, tests that are easy to test manually, tests that are too complex to automate, or tests that contain persistence of data from a database. Um, yeah, but at the same time, I don't know. the tests that are too complex to automate, um, I feel, should still be probably high up on the list anyway. Okay, because if they are taking a long time to manually test as well, then it's just easier to just do the automated testing. Okay, if your manual testing is you know you know taking like 10 minutes or something like that, every time, then just look into ways of trying to automate it because um, the amount of time that it might take you to run through all of them by hand, you know, um, you know, this right here, tests that help reduce manual effort when testing complex logic. It's um, like one of my jobs before, um, you know, I would oftentimes write up scripts that would go through like it needed to see, I needed to see whether or not the results that I was seeing on screen were the actual results based off the input that was given to it, right? And I need to verify that that was indeed happening correctly. So, you know, I would write up scripts that would basically say, okay, feed in this information, and this is the results that should happen. And I would run through that, and I would see the results, and I would go, okay, that's done, that's done, that's done, that's done, that's done. If I was manually typing in each one of those numbers every single time, then it would have taken me a lot longer to go through like the sheets of data that I was having to process. So, um, you know, the the sheets of data were already made. So it's just very easy for me to just kind of take that sheets of input, put it into a script and run said script, for that input. So it was just a simple copy and paste and run those scripts. Um, and the amount of time that it took to confirm, you know, the results was a lot shorter than trying to manually put it um, into the workstation that I was working with. So that's all. So now, if it's if it is too complex, then obviously it's like um, then yeah, you might it probably will be really really difficult to automate. I'll grant you that, but the you have to understand if it if the too complex is like one time out of the entire test suite or something along those lines, and you're only running that test suite like twice, then okay, probably not a need to automate. But if you're running it like millions of times every single time and you're having to stop, manually input that, and then allow for it to continue on with its automation, then it's just going to be kind of a waste of time for everybody involved in that regard. You're going to want to, in my opinion, you're going to want to try to do an automation on that. Try to, allow for it to do, um, try to figure out how to streamline that faster because otherwise you're you're now at the mercy of trying to manually put that information in every single time for a million times, and that's a slow process. Okay. Um, human reaction is slower. Typing in numbers it's typically slower than a computer, on average. Now don't get me wrong, there are some people that, that are really fast, like calculator fast, when coming up, when doing calculations in their brain, right? There are people that are able to do that, okay? But here's the thing, not everybody can do that, okay? Some people are amazed at, like if I do, mathematics in my brain, some people are going to be like, how? How are you able to do that? I don't understand. It boggles my mind, kind of thing, right? There are people that are seriously impressed by that. So if you're expecting people to, um, you know, the speed um, of your program running might be dependent about on that. Like some of them might be like trying to count on their fingers or something along those lines. So you know um, you know the um, if you compare someone that's like counting on their fingers versus someone that can actually do the calculations in their head, then obviously the person doing the calculations in their head might be faster. You know, uh, you know, might be. I'll say that who knows? Maybe someone doing finger calculations, could be extremely fast. You never know. I'm not going to, you know, um, give it like hey, let's have a race between the, person that can, you know, make calculations with their fingers versus a person calculating in their brain. I'm not going to bother with that. But, you get what I'm saying, though. Okay. Um, there are some people that are going to have, and that might struggle with it, and therefore it might even take longer. So, so it's just sometimes easier to automate. Okay. Um, but at the same time, automation is really having a problem with the with employment. It feels like that's a different topic altogether. But let's move on here. Build for coverage. Because your unit tests cover a wide range of scenarios, ensure that enough variations are created to cover all positive and negative scenarios. Aim to include as much rule coverage as possible, which includes different paths of rule execution. Add enough tests that cover all input and output combinations, but keep the test case logic short and visible to optimize reusability. Smaller unit tests can help quickly pinpoint when rule functionality does not work and promote ease in design and maintenance. To learn more about measuring rule test coverage, see Academy topic test coverage. Okay, well, there's no ending question here, so that's kind of unfortunate, but build for maintenance. Each test case must be easy to read and understand by any person. For example, test case names and descriptions are relevant and explain the purpose of the test case. Add comments for every step for better readability and to ensure ease of maintenance. Make test data as modular as possible to make any updates and future changes easier and quicker. For example, you do not need to create test data for an application as a whole or larger complex data structures. More modular test data means that small changes do not require reconfiguring all test data and potentially introducing issues with other tests. So, basically, um, think of it this way. Um, sometimes it's easier to have a test case that, runs against a single field, text field, for example, versus trying to make a test, um, a unit test that covers the entire application. Okay, it's better to just kind of create the smaller tests, that handle like, hey, I'm inputting this and I should be getting out that. I'm inputting this and should be getting out that. Make those small tests, and it just kind of grows and grows and grows into something that you can just kind of run all of them all together as one large test suite. Okay, and if your test field needs to change, like say like, hey, it's the test the field was originally alphanumeric, but now it just needed to be numeric. You needed to remove all the letters. Now you're needing to kind of change that particular unit test. Then you're not changing the entire unit suite. Okay, you're just changing that one field. So that's all. And yes, you know, test case names and comments, especially comments, are very handy. So don't forget to document your not only your programming but your testing as well. But that's going to be it for today's topic of unit tests. It is indeed a really important and worthwhile uh, topic to really kind of cover, to use out there in the real world. Okay, even if you're not even using Pega. Okay, if you're not, yeah, if for some reason you get a job that isn't using Pega whatsoever, like maybe you're a full stack Java developer or something like that, then you're still going to want to be doing unit tests, debugging to ensure that your program runs the way you want it to run. So, but that's going to be it for today's Pega study session. I hope you all enjoyed that particular study session. Hopefully, you were able to glean some amount of information from me during this particular topic. I know that I ran a little over, but that's okay because it's, again, a very important topic. So hopefully that helped you out. You got a lot of information out of it. Feel free to leave any kind of comments or questions if you need to. I will do what I can to answer such comments and questions if that comes to it. But that's going to be it for today's Pega study session. So thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. Hopefully I catch you next time. And until then, take care. Have a good night. Stay healthy. Stay safe. I'll catch you strangers next time.